here in America have to understand that this whole construct of America started when they discovered this gasoline, or actually even before that, train. And you had unions and groups sticking together, regardless of their religion, regardless of where they were from, they were sticking together. You benefited a lot, Dr. James, by people before you sticking together in the 60s, so that there was remnants of a system still left where you benefit from. What has happened is 1990, 2001 type people became less sticking together for the sake of these groups. They less create conglomerates. They less do that. And now those people who are still doing that, they're protecting their own, their people, their children. If you're a surgery of heart, I'm only protecting surgery of heart people. If you're a radiology, I'm only protecting radiology people. And I think America has forgotten that it originally started by groups sticking together so that these jobs would be secure for their nieces, nephews, sons, and daughters. And we got away from that.
That's a really interesting point. When I was hearing this, Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, boomers, all this stuff, it kind of like, do we have to subdivide? And now they're dividing Gen Z into multiple categories instead of just human and not human.
No, you're so right, because what we've done is we're atomizing society into smaller and smaller fragments. And that doesn't work because society is a whole. That's WHOLE.
Good morning, everybody. Dr. James, are you there? Dr. James, are you there?
I am. I was changing the room title to acknowledge trying to wind down at 8:20. I am here. I'm listening.
No worries. I just wanted to ask you a question. Are you a licensed MFCC?
No, I'm not a licensed MFCC. I will be crossing my fingers very, very soon. A licensed clinical psychologist, also a health service psychologist. I've got all my ducks in a row for that. So it's I'm a psychologist practitioner more than I am a psychologist researcher, though I do some research and have in the past. And I've had such social anxiety for my whole life that just doing these rooms has been helpful with that. I've begun to get a little hankering for what it would be like to teach a class. So
you got it. Thanks. I'll talk more about it offline. Thanks.
Thank you. What's MFCC?
Marriage, Family, Child Counselor. A lot of non-PhDs, non-doctors that are qualified as therapists are MFCC, Marriage, Family, Child Counselor. I think there's another designation too.
LPCC is family. Yeah, that's for social workers, but that's a whole different lane. I am well down another track.
That's why I asked.
Family therapists have a different type of training to where they're more, in my view, two decades in these areas, they're more balanced to all dimensions of the service. It's not like a sociologist. It's not like a psychologist. It is one of the most balanced things that you'll ever kind of do, because you're able to see kind of all sides and many of the things of the people who practice that. Not me. They tend to see all sides of this service as opposed to how they were trained. Like psychologists are just trained one way. Family therapists, or in Steve's thing, marriage family therapists, they have a very multifaceted approach. You may come in for one thing, and they're definitely going to ask you about children. They're definitely going to ask you, and they're going to correlate all that together. The other thing I'll say to Rick is, yeah, it's an interesting thing, Rick. Most people don't like to look at it, but when America followed what Reagan wanted, which is, and you can go look at the speech that Cesar Chavez made, Rick. When you follow what Reagan wanted, which is this whole slave labor concept, let's go help China because Nixon just helped China. Let's go help China again because we don't want to pay these Americans. And a lot of people believed, okay, only certain type of Americans are not going to be unionized. Cool. But in actually all that stuff backfired. Letting China into the WTO backfired. Reagan's NAFTA backfired. Clinton's NAFTA on steroids backfired. All these things that took away from America, Rick, if we had just left it alone and let the internet naturally flourish, we'd have been good. 2 women created our ability to talk over the internet. That doesn't even get popularized, Rick. And my last point, Rick, what have the 1999 people really created? Seem like they're just weaponizing what we have. Hey, you got a parking lot? Let me create some technology to pirate the money out of that and have me do half the work of the person 2 generations who owns the parking lot. Hey, you got some type of medical thing with Dr. James? Let me try to pirate away some money away from him so his industry can shrink and I can sit at home and just collect it. Something to think about, Rick.
I've often thought that, and I love technology. I do love technology, but technology in many ways doesn't solve the problem that it's supposed to be solving. It allows us to make mistakes, a lot more mistakes, a lot faster. But it's not really great at solving problems. Other than like mathematical problems, it's really good at doing calculations. It's not really good at doing analysis or trying to figure out human behavior.
Can I just throw in a quick plug because I'm not going to be able to stay on the app past 9.
What do you think?
I just want, because you guys are hitting on the topic of critical thinking versus information retrieval, which is the question that we started asking back at the millennium. What were we creating in our lifelong learners? And I believe that's what Karma Club is going to be about this week. So you guys are talking about it.
And it's probably what Karma Club is going to be available this week because Sue wanted to do it. And
you guys are all talking about it right now. The consequences. And I'm sorry, I don't know who just said it, but you're right. The internet got popular because of 2 women. And we don't give that any acknowledgement whatsoever. And had the internet been able to grow the way it could have grown, we might not be where we are. So come on, Thursday, and let's have a talk.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else? Any comments? Anyone who hasn't spoken or you want to jump in the topic?
I want to ask a question for another room, like stick a pin in it because it's a long conversation. I've been.
You should always do this much at the end and then we have to run for an extra half hour.
But this way we can actually get to think about it before we talk about it. We don't just kind of shoot from the head. But I was really sitting and thinking about Dr. Francine and Rick's comments about splintering. And I disagreed, but I was trying to think of why do I disagree? And so I think just it's really interesting to consider. It's interesting to consider what it means to be in community and what kind of subsuming to the whole do smaller groups have to do in order for us to have community, right? Like every
drops their child off at school but me? Like, do I have to adapt to the community, or does the community need to adapt to me? And where does that splintering become problematic, and where is it helpful? I think that is a very interesting question, right? I think that there's a utility in talking about, boomers versus Gen Z in terms of the creation of opportunity for subsequent generations. That to me that has a lot of utility, but is there a point that is harmful and not helpful to the conversation? I think that'd be a really interesting conversation to kind of figure out where that line is and who gets to set the line. But not today.
Yeah, just really quick. Okay, just hold the thoughts. We are in the cool down. We're in the last 9 minutes. We are going to end up playing. The tarmac is at 8:30. I will shut the room down if someone is mid-sentence. This is serious business today. So, can everyone please keep their comments to under 1 minute? The stage is closed.
30 seconds. So it would be good if person A in the example was already with the community when it wasn't something that they could take advantage of. A lot of times these conversations for person A are problematic or a light bulb above the head when it has to do with them. But what about Charlie when he had that same concern a month ago? What about Francois when he had that same, or she had that same concern 2 years ago? Person A in the example was not involved with the community on that.
Yeah, I think that would be an incredible conversation. How do you find the balance between we are all human beings living on the planet, but each of us has our own unique set of challenges? And how do you balance that without just stereotyping everything into, you're in this bucket, I'm in this bucket, the twain shall never be, It's how do you get the gumbo to work?
I always hear people who are benefiting from what they.
Oh, we're losing you. You're breaking up.
We've got 7 minutes left, so if anyone wants to chime in, and then we can get back to Zile once she's back in order.
Even before you have
We missed everything. Zile, outside of the last sentence. Do you remember Forrest Gump where he got up on stage to give his speech, and then you hear nothing, and all of a sudden he says, and that's what I think about Vietnam.
All right, let me pull over. So I said it is good that if person A is involved in the community, then it wouldn't be a separatist question to even begin with. Because I think what happens is, let's say, hey, I am the only black guy in my hospital, the only one in strategic planning. Okay, I got some power, but guess what? I want to bring in other people. Not so much. We're a Filipino community, but we're only really hiring Filipinos. Okay, cool. Why did you hire that person? We got to train her on how to do control of the lead. Well, she and they. Okay, cool. No problem. Now here we are months later. She's 72 orders behind. Everything is messed up. Hey, black guy, help us. No. You were not of a community concept. In the original part, you cannot weaponize and be an opportunistic, what I need type of person after that. So I, like you, am going to think of myself.
Yeah, I think for me the question is really a broader kind of like, it's a philosophical question, right? And this is where the utility is of how you frame a conversation, how you frame your discussion. Like, is it appropriate to talk about, how politically, for example, a group will
such a like dishonest way to frame the conversation. So I think that one of the challenges is that power always gets to determine what the frame of the conversation is. Like that's part of what it means to be in charge. And so as power becomes more diffuse, more groups have the opportunity to say what their reality is and tell their own story. And so that's the lens through which I hear the splintering comment. I want to hear from generations that are experiencing different challenges than my generation experienced. But I am very curious about the harm that we associate with that. I just, we want to be honest and stick to the time schedule. But I think we should all think about that and have that conversation from like a really thoughtful place, because without that kind of splintering, there's a lot of rights I personally wouldn't even have, right? Like somebody had to say that these experiences are different for different groups of people. But I do think it's interesting to contemplate, like, when does that go too far, and why do we feel like it goes too far? Is it when we're confronted with things we don't like? Is it when we're confronted with things that generalize and stereotype us? Nobody wants to be stereotyped. I just think there's a lot in here. So stay tuned, walking friends.
Yes, and here's your next metaphor. We get to reach the finish line at 8:30. So no one who has spoken, please speak. I mean, do not. Here's what I'm trying to think. We get to be at the finish line at 8:30. Let's help each other there, and then we can get some water, cool off, do what we want to do. Anyone who hasn't spoken, if you have a final comment, basically 20 seconds or less, so we can.
Hey, can I do like 20 seconds?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, listen, I know yesterday was sort of a bad handoff, so I've been thinking about it. And I haven't talked to you yet, Dr. James, so I should talk to you. But my thinking is I need to take some responsibility for this, because it's totally, I understand, when you go overtime. It's just that if I don't know that's happening, so I will try to make sure that I'm there at least by 25 after. And then if you do go over, we'll just do a handoff. So, if there's a 5-minute difference, or, if you go over a little bit, that's fine. This way, I won't be sitting in a room, twiddling my thumbs. So, let's, does that sound good?
So let me repeat back to what I'm hearing you say. You would like to change the way you.
I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, you went in, Dr. James.
Yeah, you went in.
Doris, come back.
Yeah.
Don't run.
It's not a big deal.
Don't run for it.
It's not a big deal. I'm going to try to come in when possible, 25 after. And when it's, we'll try to make the handoff around the half-hour mark. But it's not, if it goes over 5 minutes or 7 minutes, I will at least be aware of it, and I can do the handoff. So it's not really that much of a change. I just want to, I don't want everybody to I hate when things are like completely arbitrarily black or white. So there you go. All right, that's it for me. I'll hand off when Dr. James says so.
Dr. James did say that he was ending the room at 8:30, even in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
And it is 8:30, so let's be
Maybe he got disconnected. So I will end the room.
I'll go get you started. I can see you there.
Okay, so I am going to end the room, even though it's not my place to do so, but it is 8:30 and
standing.
respecting the wishes of the men's 10 left.
I want to just clarify something. I was in the Matrix, worst timing ever, because I was asking him how he wants to do the mechanics of it. If anyone understood, this is my question, and I'll shut down. Is it that he wants to change the way he does rooms, and he wants a long handoff so that this room becomes his room? Or is he saying something else? Because I'm super confused about that
is by another classicist, and she has used his letters to sort of and she moves him away. But the point I want to make is that she moves him away from being a Platonist to being inspired by another Apuleius. People might know him for the Golden Ass. But she uses his letters as a sort of way to sort of get to the African identity of Augusta. And not to say that the black men talk about this is like, it's well known, and we talk about it, but there's a difference between what Alina does and what she does in her text. Alina leans heavily on the Romanness of Augustine's thought. She, on the other hand, demonstrates or attempts to demonstrate that his thought is solely African.
When he wrote all the stuff, he was in all the main stuff. I think he was in Africa when he wrote.
I do understand 5 years outside of Africa, but determined to go back. And also, he's not really, you think, but contextually, he's also fundamentally a country preacher. Like, he's not in a big city, he's not in Carthage, he's not in a big city, he is a pastor. So,
John, we can see you adjusting your John Kitover, we can see you on YouTube adjusting your, you got blue shirt on with yellow stripes. We can see you adjusting the room, screening in on us talking about Augusta. This is exciting content. John Kitover, we see you. We can see your bookshelf in your house. We can see how you have your clothes hung up on Walmart white plastic hangers because you don't have closets. We see you there, John Kitover. Hope you enjoy the content and book recommendations. Appreciate it, bro.
Is he on a new page? I don't see anything live.
John Kitover, we're putting in that link. This one is Illinois Congressman John Kitover. It's in front of a bookshelf. We can see some stuff hanging in the back. He was just rechanging it, adjusting it. The Arizona blue up there. That's his video unavailable. Amazing.
Yeah, because I went to report the last one and it was down.
That's the one. He just did this, like he just did this one down, so before he made it private.
He's still doing
We're gonna get you down. You're going down.
Yes, back up.
Okay, I don't. Alright, let me go.
Retaliatory technology.
Don, I said I was rereading Righteous Discontent, just because I think it's like a foundational text. It's just so odd to me. I think actually a lot of the anti-respectability feminists actually would love this book. They would actually love this book, but
So why don't we go to, let's go Moose. Moose was here first. Moose, what's been gnawing on you?
You know, when you said that, I'm taking a slight loose quiz, so I'm actually here to catch up.
That's fair.
Something that I actually did see. That I think there was a story about there was an attorney general or
The rise of Nazism in the 1930s came in concentration camps. And the fact that Donald Trump become Hitler 1942, and I was like, he could. He's not there yet, but he could. So we're seeing it. I mean, they now have a budget to create concentration camps all over the country. I think it was Christine. Somebody was saying that all the governors of red states need to get together because they have special funding available for every state to have a intern center. I mean, there's nothing. How else can you say this other than concentration camps? And particularly the way you're doing it. I mean, hey, you go see what they're doing down in Florida. That is a concentration camp. As a matter of fact, I don't remember concentration camps being places that were flooded with one toilet for like 50 people. I don't remember that. This could be potentially technically worse. It's astounding. It's shocking. It's outrageous. I think the thing that's been I've been most worried about the past couple of weeks is this idea that the big ugly bill has in it this huge amount of money designated for ICE. The ICE budget goes from $8 billion to $48 billion. And they are going to be hiring tens of thousands of new, I don't know what you call them, agents, or, I mean, they're Gestapo, they're secret police. But to me, that's the really horrible telling thing, because there will then be an infrastructure for a politically based MAGA secret police that is completely unaccountable and motivated to break the law. And it's how do you stop that? How do we, they're going to be using it to go not only against undocumented, whether they're violent criminals or not. And the violent criminal thing is such a huge, that's the original lie. There are very few violent undocumented. The vast majority, 98%, are all law-abiding. Not only law-abiding, they are. They don't want to have any attention drawn to them. Why would they do these kind of? which they can't do anyway. They can't illegally vote. All the votes are tied to specific numbers, which are tied to a specific registered voter. So if an unregistered voter takes it, it would be tagged immediately, and it doesn't happen. It's a lie. So that's the original lie. The original lie is the rapists and the murderers and the pedophiles that Mexico sent over to America. That was the original lie by the original liar, and we can't forget that. It's so full of shit. Anyway, all right. Thank you for letting me vent. All right, let's go to David. It's your turn to vent.
Well, Ben, before we go to David, if you...
Hold on, Ken. Let's go to David, and I'll come right back.
Go ahead, Ken.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to do one little correction on something, and then go to David, then you go back to me. But this thing that Lou said about the DOJ, you shouldn't conflate things. This DOJ is not going to investigate themselves. So the stuff that you're talking about with the DOJ doesn't involve any kind of things with ICE detention facilities. So this is like DOJ stuff that actually was done under the Biden administration examining prisons in different states. They have an investigation in Georgia. They have an investigation in California. So they were investigating prison conditions in state prisons, which is not unusual. I mean, we've had histories of abuses in state prisons. I mean, going back decades. I mean,
no, Ken, I didn't say it was ICE facility. It was state prisons. No, it wasn't ICE. It was state prisons.
Yeah.
However, real quick, I will say that said, that the Alcatraz, there were allegations that were investigated there about, I think, what Ben alluded to, one toilet overflooding, potential septic problems, cockroaches, all that. And of course, it was, they did an internal investigation and they denied all allegations. But yeah.
Okay, did you want to go ahead, David, or you want to pass the Ken?
I'll just say that statistically, it's been proven there's definitely evidence that immigrants commit less crime, less violent crime. We all know why, because they don't have as long a rope in the legal system, and so it's a pure lie, a concoction. I think the simplest way to say it is Trump calls it an invasion. That's what people, when they move from economic circumstances, it's called immigration for a reason. The fact that since Reagan we haven't dealt with this problem is more of the festering wound that politicians in America hasn't dealt with about an ongoing known issue. Yet the politicians don't have the resolve. In fact, they had a bill to do it. I believe that Trump wanted the bill killed so that he could get reelected because he runs on the hate he's able to generate by lying, by scapegoating, by calling it an invasion. And that's sadly not called out every time he uses that rhetoric.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Anyway, let's go to Andrew and then Denise and then to Dr. Francine. Andrew, any thoughts?
I have.
You have a couple. All right, go for it.
Actually, I really one that kind of just hit me this morning. I did send it to a bunch of people here. Six Congress people and or senators sent a letter to what do you call it when you're sending a diplomat to the other country, like your wife is?
Okay.
No. Well, yeah, but who's the person? My brain's not.
Sounds good. We'll figure it out.
Ambassador to the United States from Canada, they sent a letter basically complaining about the air quality in their states and that it's affecting their people, which it obviously is. And it's unfortunate. But I guess they're really wanting us here in Canada to really get our house in shape, not realizing that they signed on to a bill that eviscerated the Green Act to go and incentivize these years, according to some studies, is going to increase the amount of carbon in the atmosphere by 7 billion tons. So a bit of a hypocrisy there, and not understanding, obviously, what they are doing, or not caring what they're doing, and then wanting to point a finger at Canada.
Of course.
That doesn't help us want to be your 51st state, believe you me. And I mean, how ridiculous. People don't understand how big our boreal forest is. We're talking about a vast area of land mass, and there are some incidents of arson, but not way up north. We're talking about places that there are barely any people. And those that are there are being evacuated. We're talking. it's just crazy. It's crazy. But so I saw that this morning and just shook my head. And of course, over the last, I don't know, since 2015, I've been shaking my head so hard at the United States it hurts. Clangs. But so that was the big thing that I saw this morning, which kind of just gave me a moment to laugh.
Just a little
The old days, when they had the smoking section in the restaurant. And if you sat in the non-smoking section, I'm sorry, it's the same air. And this is the same deal. It's the same air. We can't hold the air back for you. Sorry. We'd love to, but, we just can't do it. The other thing I was thinking about, somebody was talking about it yesterday. I can't remember if I heard it on the news or podcast or where, but they were talking about this Golden Dome idea that Donald Trump has proffered.
Right.
And in the past, Canada has been, we provided you our airspace free. There's no strings attached. You can have our airspace to do whatever it is that we want to do together as a North American continent, as allies. And, including cruise missile testing, et cetera, that was all done over Canadian airspace. And we didn't charge you nothing. But, of course, Donald is very transactional, so they probably want to, he already has insisted on certain things, but I think we'll charge for the air, smoky or not. So, there you go.
There you go. All right, thanks for the update. And I do remember those smoking days. I don't know, I was running for some reason, YouTube is sending me videos of what it was like in commercial air travel in the 1940s and 50s. And I am old enough to remember when you could smoke on an airplane and there were smoking sections, which now you think back to it, it's like, how can you have a smoking section? It's like you were all sitting together in a cigar tube. A smoking section. That's cute. Anyway, we want to go to Denise and Dr. Francine and then Dr. James. Anybody else who wants to come up? We got, 6. We got room for 5 more at the table. Come on up. Denise.
Good morning. I've been watching the Epstein thing. I've been watching the communication, like first the incredible outrage, and now the kind of unified backpedaling is really something to watch. I mean, this is a Jedi mind trick of epic levels here, and it's just really interesting because it's like, what do you care about? What do you care about? If you can just be told to stand down, hey, we're gonna stop talking about this. I'm stunned because they were so upset about it, and now every Republican just voted not to release the files that don't exist. Why are we voting to release files that don't exist? If they don't exist, there's nothing to release, right? It's just really interesting because they were so upset, and to watch everybody just kind of fall in line and backpedal from there, really profound. It is really something to watch. It's actually terrifying, to be honest with you, because it really shows the influence and the lockstep kind of situation that we're dealing with. makes it hard to kind of figure out how to communicate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're pinpointing it right where it belongs. I've been and I always say I am the most skeptical person. I am not one who is prone towards conspiracy at all because I tend to think putting a group of human beings together and keep a secret, I think is pretty fucking hard to do. So I am very anti-conspiracy theory, except for this one. Because I remember early on hearing the story about Bill Barr's father, who was we talked about this before, who was the headmaster of the Dalton School in Manhattan, who had hired Epstein even before he had a degree in college. And he had no degree in math, but he was hired as a math teacher without a degree at the age of like 20, 21, I went to a prep school, and every one of my teachers had at minimum a master's degree, and most of them from pretty prestigious schools. Nobody had a teacher that didn't have a degree, and so this is all like it's just bizarre. It's not bizarre. It's part of the story. And there's other things related to his father and how he got fired and how that was related to Epstein getting fired and then Epstein getting hired for, I think it was Bear Stearns, by somebody whose kid, went to Dalton School. There's so much stuff about the origination story with Bill Barr, and then he magically shows up, how many years later, exactly at the time that Epstein is in prison. And he recuses himself. So he acknowledges his relationship, but it doesn't mean that he didn't order him killed. I mean, those are two separate things. And there's the whole thing with Alex Acosta, who became the labor secretary, who was the prosecutor in charge of his bullshit prosecution. There are so many things about this that are clearly wrong, and clearly Trump is in the middle of it. Clearly, Trump was Epstein's best friend for 15 years. Clearly, Epstein used to use Mar-a-Lago as a base of operation for many years, and many people know about that. There are so many pictures and details of Trump being involved. So it's the major one. Now, the thing I love about it is it's horrendous, and it's awful to think that Donald Trump was part of this underage sex ring. It's horrendous. It's awful. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't have any more to do with being president, other than character, than Hillary's emails. It really is sort of, it's horrible and terrible and awful. But it's not like, I designed and fomented a coup, a violent coup, an insurrection, and tried to steal an election. That's sort of more relevant. And so this is sort of interesting because, in a way, the maggots and the people from the right have always used, like, Hillary's emails, Hunter Biden's laptops. It's always been something that was sort of so stupid that fighting against it was like boxing, air. Because it's like, how do you box air? Because at the end of the day, why do Hillary's emails even matter compared to an insurrection, let's say? It's crazy. So I think this is going to, despite the fact that everybody has been obedient and Fox News and everybody else is like shut down within 24 hours, they're not quite. Because I do think
it was like the Russia hoax. And so that gave them something to hang on to.
Yeah, but I do think this is different than some of the other things that we talked about, because I do talk to a lot of people who disagree with me, and one of the kind of anchors is that they are on religious moral grounds. That is a key anchor to the belief system. And now how you get there when this guy has been accused of this and that, and he has all these history, I don't know, that was the greatest con of the century, right? But now to have a situation that they literally, so many of these people, Dan Bongino, Alex Jones, they really put their entire brand around this conspiracy, and this as an indicator. This has been used as a driving indicator of the depravity of Dems for a really long time, right? And so I think it's really interesting to see if they're going to really step away. I think this is a major chink in the armor. I know my friends that are evangelical Christians are very uncomfortable. And they've been holding their nose, right? Of I don't like everything about him, but I like his policies. Well, they don't like his policies now either. And this is such an insult of their intelligence that I think it's really interesting. I just think it's a little bit different than everything else that we've seen, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. Every accusation is a confession, right? You think about, remember the people that went to the pizza shop because they thought pedophiles are in the basement selling these are true believers. They do believe this stuff. So it's interesting to see now that their leader is obviously implicated, their ability to kind of step away from it, I find fascinating. Let's see.
We'll see. And I agree. I think there is a distinction in that wacko community. There's a difference between the true Trump believers who will do whatever he says, and the ones who, the QAnons, the influencers. See, I don't think that Tucker Carlson's, and at the end of the day, I think Bongino, or whatever his name is, I think he's out of there. I think at the end of the day, he looks like he's going to turn. I'm not so sure about Kash Patel, but I do think that the other guy is going to turn. But the thing is you're right, this is different because it goes to the core of their belief system, which is there is this conspiracy of something outside of government that's controlling stuff. And so the argument does become, well, Trump is doing the cover up because he's being controlled by something else. Is this something else? The oligarch tech guys could be. They could easily turn on Musk and the tech guys. They should. If they're anti-elitist, who's more elitist than a billionaire? And so you're right. I see there being some. And look, the Fox News has done this to themselves because there was 24 hours of Fox News looking like it was going to turn, and then all of a sudden, overnight, they were given the orders to not do it. So this is now the Fox Epstein cover-up. That's the name of what this is. This is the Fox Epstein cover-up. And I do believe that the Democrats actually have a little push. I thought Hakeem Jeffries was saying the right stuff. So was Jamie Raskin. I believe that there's some power here to keep this alive in conjunction with the crazy right-wing influencer people. So, well, like you said, Denise, get your popcorn. Let's see if we can keep this going. All right, let's see. Oh, geez, Dr. Francine has been sitting there waiting, and also Dr. James. So let's go to Dr. Francine. It's the doctor hour. So you can't get here unless you have some sort of degree. Dr. Francine.
Yes, I am so confused by how the right focused on it in this room where we're smart people who should know better. This is still detaining people without caring whether they're legal or not. They're just like, take them now, find out later. You know what I'm saying? So I can't get too excited about Epstein because, come on, you know Trump was involved with Epstein.
Sure.
You know he screwed underage women. You just know he did. But it doesn't matter because he's now a president. And what he did with underage women should have mattered at the polling booth, but it didn't. And therefore, we have him as a president. And what we have to do now is stop him from doing more damage. Taking away immigrants without knowing, without due process. I was going to say without knowing even who they are. Never mind due process. It's like,
no, they're just, you've got brown skin, we'll take you, and then we'll ask questions later.
yes, exactly. So if you're trying to talk about what would bother somebody like me, that bothers somebody like me.
Look, I agree with you, Dr. Francine, but I have to push back just a little bit because I do, like I said before, I think that, what do you call it, that the whole Epstein thing is, you're right, it's not really, it's a distraction, but the power of it is this really bothers Trump. And the fact of the matter is that we also have to do whatever we can, use whatever tools to neutralize him and his power and his reach. And if he gets caught up in this, and this keeps on going, and this drives him crazy, and this starts being a normal element, just like, during the 2016 campaign, there wasn't a day where they didn't talk about Hillary's emails. And there was always that in the background. Well, if this becomes in the background every single day, that this comes up, even if it's not relevant.
Because they already voted not to release the files,
That drives the chewing on people crazy. That's the thing that drives them crazy. And that's the thing that you can point to because they are now doing things that you can actually physically point to and say, hey, look what you did. Remember the transparency. I don't know. I just think, and it's my opinion, that if we can keep this going, I think this will, whether it's a slow burn or
it's not a solution to people's problems.
The solution.
Problems do not give a shit.
I know, but the solution to people's problems are to make sure that Donald Trump is ineffective. That is the short-term solution. Because there is no, we can't go one by one and try to attack each of the things that he's doing because there are 100 of them. So the best we can do is
sitting there.
If we can make him ineffective, and if we can distract him, the destruction of the institutions will at least go at a slower pace, so we can at least buy time into the 2026 election. Because that's all we have.
I'm not sure. I think with an insecure person, the more he feels on attack, the more likely he'll be cruel.
Well,
totally.
But as he becomes more cruel, there's an argument to say that will make him more vulnerable and will accelerate people's anger again, turning them against him.
And he's not a god. He gets his power through his coalition, right? So anything that compromises his coalition and his support is what attacks his power. I think that's kind of how I think about it. Like, I always keep in mind that Capone didn't go to jail for murder or selling. Like, he went to jail for tax evasion. You get him how you get him, right? So whatever tools in the arsenal, I think you.
I love it. That's what I do. I believe that. All right, let's go to Dr.
I accept.
Wow. No, you know what? we can both have opinions that are different, even though we want the same conclusion. It makes sense. It's a good conversation. I don't think it's one or the other. Dr. James, how are you doing?
I am well. I am about to hit how many steps right now? Let's see. Holy cow. I'm at 8,300 steps, and it's 9:11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, so I am doing great.
Now then, do you like to have a drink and then go to bed?
Exactly. I have some Cheetos. I get in front of the TV, and I binge on Our Lucy episodes.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah, so just a couple of things here. So I'll do the good news and the bad news. So here's some good news I just read. The number of homeless people in Los Angeles County declined by 4% for the second consecutive year, dropping to 72,308 individuals according to data released by the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. And street homelessness showed steeper declines, with unsheltered populations dropping 9.5% countywide and 7.9% in the city, while the number of makeshift shelters, tents, and vehicles decreased 13.5%. And they say officials attributed this to progress to aggressive encampment clearing programs like Mayor Karen Bass's Inside Safe initiative and record high permanent housing placements of nearly 28,000 people in 2024. And so this marks the first time since the point-in-time count began in 2005 that homelessness has declined 2 years in a row, representing a turning point after the crisis peaked at 75,518 people in 2023. Though despite the progress, LAHSA noted the region still requires more than 485,000. That was 485,000 affordable housing units to meet demand, highlighting the ongoing challenges of addressing the root causes of homelessness. So this basically suggests that there's been a 17.5% drop in street homelessness since Bass or Bass took office.
Can you hear Dr. James talking about the homeless people and how it's down 4%? It's just great news.
He's a doctor.
And he hit 8,300 steps, and he's not even a fucking doctor!
I was in LA for almost 2 decades of my life. Basically my late adolescence through my young middle age. I was in Los Angeles or Long Beach. I lived all over LA. And, I've been saddened to see, how things changed after I left in such a short period of time, even though things were already pretty out in a lot of spaces.
And you're going to keep voting Democrat, Scott? Please.
And, doing parties in downtown LA. I'm very familiar with Skid Row and all the different places and just sort of what goes on down there. And,
today he admitted he's not an actual doctor and that he doesn't even have his degree yet to be a psychologist.
A trend that continues.
Why do you admit that?
Okay, so that was good news.
People were asking him about his career, and he's like pre-licensed, and he can't find a job.
Any student who is repaying their loans and moved over to Biden's Safe Plan, which basically...
He says he has terrible anxiety,
capped out payment,
and this app has been great for him.
We're not paying towards our principal, and our interest rate was snowballing our debt, which that's happening for
It is limited.
everybody.
It's a bunch of couch warriors.
Give, so that our loans would not snowball, and then we could actually pay them off.
He's got huge education loans.
August 1st, and so right now we're all under administrative forbearance, which says 0% interest, but you're not making any credit towards your forgiveness right now in terms of the time spent.
This is a man who has a huge amount of student loans, you can tell. Everything is projection, Scott. You just have to listen to what people are saying. And they're literally telling you about themselves every single time.
But we can't go back into repayment.
Everybody's a narcissist. They just talk about themselves.
The federal government, the education department, complete disarray, and they can't get us into, even though they say there's plans for us, we can't get into them. And so what's happening is we are going to be accruing interest without a means to do anything about it, to earn credit towards forgiveness. And this is a really precarious situation, especially because I just read that, this week or last week, judges decided
it's about student loans and you can't pay them back.
Are now going to be laid off at the Department of Education, and they are basically trying to return all of that sort of administrative duty back to the states. And so
go in that room and pick a fight. Pick a fight with Ben and say, hey, this room's big. This is the deep state clowns.
That went to intelligence recipients to be doctors and clinicians and lawyers and whatever the fuck else you're going to go into debt for, expecting that we had means to get our loans paid back. And also literally dying in student loan debt.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. And they killed the room. They killed the room while Dr. James was still talking.
And, I just don't think, I'm really feeling sort of dragged down by all of this because because it's affecting me, and so self-interest dictates that I'm going to notice it.
Yeah,
But,
it's affecting me.
I just wanted to throw that out there, just in case you.
First of all, I think it's a good point, and we do want to hear it. One of the things that I love about this Clubhouse is to hear everybody's personal story. Like I said, I have one of my sons still has about $10,000 outstanding that he would have. They would have forgiven him because he's now 40 years old, so the debt is like almost 20 years old. So they would be forgiven within the Biden plan. But and he's overseas and he doesn't give a shit. It's like he's like the thing is, hopefully, and I am an optimist about this. I think by the time 2028 happens, that there will be a reversal. And so if we can stick it out for 3 more years, I think that the Democrats will be back in power and they'll be not only addressing this, but I think they're going to use it as a campaign element, a campaign topic, which I think could be effective for young people. It's not just young people. My kid's 40 years old, so it's not like he's a young person. So it's definitely an issue, but I do think that this is not a permanent work. A lot of this stuff that he's doing is so outrageous and so destructive, but it's not unfixable. I mean, it's like 3 years from now, we can start rebuilding and putting things back the way they should be. So I'm glass half full there.
Okay, Scott.
Anyway, let me see who's on the stage here. Oh, God, goodness, we have Stephanie and Rick. Stephanie, how are you? What's up with you?
Hi there. Good to see everybody. Lots of stuff as usual. Just thinking of the Epstein thing. I think Roy is right in the chat that, I think the Epstein thing is a fissure. It's created a fissure that can be exploited, although I think it is a real issue that we need to provide some kind of justice to victims. But I don't think Trump was involved with the underage sex, because I think if that's what was in there, the Biden administration, it would have been a leak. Somebody would have leaked it or brought it out legitimately. So I just think that it might be his friends or people he knows that are in there. I think that the MAGA people that want the Epstein stuff out think that Clinton was having underage sex, which I doubt. But that's really not what I would talk about. But I do think that it's very interesting that Laura Trump came out yesterday and said it needs to be transparent. Family member, his daughter-in-law, runs the RNC. That's really significant. And it's also that Trump is on the phone with the podcasters, and about 3 or 4 of them have pulled back and are not going to criticize the Epstein that mention it anymore. So you have the President of the United States calling podcasters. I think that's a little bizarre in and of itself. But then they're also buckling to the power. And you wonder, what is he saying? Am I going to turn, I'm going to turn my MAGA supporters against you? Is he leveraging some kind of threat to them? But anyway, that's not really what I want to talk about. I mean, I think it's a fissure that could be exploited, but I think it has to be, I don't think it's about Trump and Clinton having sex with underage kids. I think it's it's more about finding justice for the victims. And also that Maxwell has said that she's willing to talk, Epstein's partner. So let's see. She knows if there's a list. Let's find out, Anyway, besides that, I posted posted some articles in the chat. I have two other things on my mind I'd like to discuss. One is Obama and Mark Cuban and Jane Fonda have come out with criticisms about the way the Democrats should be talking about things. So Obama said last Friday at a fundraiser, Democrats need to stop staring at their navel, get a little tougher. But he didn't really, and figure out. That's what he said. He said, figure out. And I just thought, I think it was a little too vague. I think he should have been more specific. Although I know former presidents don't like to critique current presidents, but Obama has been doing so more lately. So anyway, that's one thing. The other thing is Mark Cuban came out and said, it's a waste of time to just keep saying Trump sucks. That we should go to the states and the governors, because they're the ones that are going to have to respond to the Reconciliation Act, or the BBB. They're the ones that are going to have to figure out the solutions for their states. And so go target the states, sound in on the governors, find out what the states are going to do, and that's where the focus should be. So that was kind of an interesting thing to me, too. I think that's a little bit more substantive than what Obama was saying. And then I put in the Jane Fonda article for a couple of reasons. One is that's where I'm at. I work on climate and democracy, and that's where she works. She works by, besides her climate work, she went to jail on her 82nd birthday for climate. I mean, she's out there doing the real stuff on the streets and also putting her money behind it. She puts her money behind local elections, some state elections. She's come to a fundraiser we had for Sexual Health Matters. She was our guest speaker with Dolores Huerta. She is a real trooper. She's a deal. Yeah, exactly. And she is doing the kinds of things that I think elected national politicians should be doing, as well as state. But I think the elected national politicians are not putting enough of their boot leather in the game. I think they should be getting arrested. I think they should be out marching with the people on all these protests. Instead of town halls are good. Holding town halls in red districts are good, but it's not quite enough. They just need to push through and do a little bit more. I would hold Jane Fonda as a great role model. So I'm interested in talking about the feedback on that, and then I have another question for the group, and because I've been bothered by one of the protests I'm going to, something happened, and I need some feedback. Anyway, what do you guys think about Obama, Cuban, and Fonda's input lately?
About their input? Oh.
Well, they've all come out and spoken. Yeah.
Exactly. Anybody here? I have sort of my opinions. Anybody want to hit that topic? Rick, you haven't spoken yet. Ricardo.
Well, I think that they all have kind of different methods to do things. I don't think it's a super unified vision. I'm not really seeing a vision. When they say Democrats should be more tough, what does more tough mean? Does more tough mean that the political party should take more control of their own political party? Does it mean that they should fight legislation harder? And how do they do that? Does becoming more tough mean self-criticism and figuring out what's wrong? I don't really know what that means. Mark Cuban, honestly, I don't know all that much about him. I do know that he's not a huge fan of Trump, but that's all I really know. I don't really know where he stands on state politics, where he stands on states' rights versus federal control. I don't know where he really stands on things like social safety nets or student loans.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him. Jane Fonda, think Jane Fonda kind of walks the walk, but she's a celebrity who's had kind of a past that is highly weaponized against her, rightly or wrongly. It's still very effective by a lot of people. The weaponization of her sitting on a North Vietnamese anti-aircraft gun while saying that she was anti-war. That's not a good look, and it's not something that's easy to get over after it's been used for so many years. But she goes out and she gets arrested, and that does make news. Whether you claim the celebrity or not, it's effective at getting news. I don't know if it's that effective at changing minds. Like, is it getting new people, or is it getting her cheering squad more cheery? So it's, and I know that coming up with plans or good plans, can't really be put into a slogan because it's way too complicated. But, I would like to hear more of a plan,
Right.
If they really have a plan, write it out, publish it.
Right. Well, I think Jane Fonda does the most of that, more than the others. I mean, Obama and Cuban. I mean, Cuban has specifics, and he has come out about the Democratic mayoral guy that won. I can't remember his name right now, but he said he's kind of the other side of Trump. They both are put out policies that can't be done, popularist policies that can't be enacted. But so anyway, I think Cuban gets more specific. Obama's like, come on, you have a lot more experience. You can be more specific. I'm kind of disappointed in him. But I think the thing that one of the things I admire about Fonda is that she uses her celebrity to earn money, to raise money. She gets out there and does it, whereas every celebrity who, there's a lot of other people who could be doing the same, where there's only about a handful, 5 to 10 celebrities that I think really put their muscle into the game. But she's the one that I remember. She goes out and she helps people raise money. She goes to fundraisers. She lets people use her name to help bolster their fundraising. And money is a big name of the game, and especially early money in campaign. So I admire her for that. But anyway, any other thoughts? And then I'd like to get your
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I have some real quick housekeeping to do. Scott Jones, the famous Reverend Scott Jones, our friend, you're going to have to go out and come back in because it's not allowing us to let you come up and speak up. We would love to hear from you. So go out and come back in. I will tell you personally, I know Mark Cuban. We met like 30 years ago. He and I share the fact that both of us grew up in Pittsburgh, and we have common people that we know. But I know him from when he was running, and this is way before he became a gazillionaire. He was just a common millionaire at the time. But I was running an early internet company in Los Angeles, and we worked together on a project very early on, so I know Mark pretty well. And he's a really good guy. It's somewhat of a surprise that he got into politics because he's really been apolitical most of his life and most of his career. He's always been a practical person. He's always sort of been an institutional Democrat. And he was very disappointed when many of his friends got red pilled. And that's one of the reasons of his reaction and his activism. But it's also, he has become more active. He sold his share. He still has his share, but he sold his majority ownership of the basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks, and he started a direct-to-consumer drug pharmacy company, and he's very much into universal health care, and he's a big proponent something specific, he'll answer within usually an hour, hour and a half. It's amazing that he has enough time to do that. But yeah, we all got together to do that. All right, cool. Where was I? Let's see, we had Stefano. Good Scotch.
Can I just ask a question? I'm interested in getting some advice. Okay, I went to Palantir protest yesterday. It was a little shorter, but kind of the same thing as last time. Which is Palantir is the Peter Thiel, Alex Carter, whatever the guy's name is, contractor that sells data and spyware hardware to all over the world, but the federal government uses it for terrorists, but they also are using it in the ICE tracking, to identify people. So anyway, they're trying to protest to shut down the hiring pipeline of college students for the Palantir thing. That's their goal of this protest. But I got a Tesla takedown, and I went Wednesday, and someone put a sign up. This really upset me, and I'm interested to see what y'all think. They put a sign not out to the street, but to the employees. It's been closed, and they just opened 2 weeks ago. So there's a staff inside of the showroom, the car showroom. And the sign, so it's directed to the employees. And it says, "You work for a Nazi, what does that make you?" And that really upsets me, because I feel as if we shouldn't be targeting employees, people that are trying to make a living. They can't control what their CEO does. I just feel as if it's a misdirected thing that is not going to help us move us forward. And accusing people we don't know, that are not on the public record, that are not public figures, regular people that are working a job of being Nazis, and I think that's wrong. And it's a debate in this group I'm in now. It's turned into this freedom of speech, all this stuff, debate. But I think it's wrong, and I feel really badly about it. So any thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's interesting that you're saying this, because I know that you're active in the sort of protests at Tesla dealerships, right? Aren't you doing that? I remember you saying it.
That's where the sign was at. The sign was at the Tesla dealership. Yeah.
All right, so the thing is that I love the boycotting Tesla, because I think it's effective and it's working. And I think if we can close down Tesla, that would be a wonderful thing. And Elon Musk should be punished for his Nazi salutes and his promoting the AfD and other Nazi parties in Europe. So I think that's that's totally fair. But the Palantir thing, I think it might be a little different. I think there might be a distinction there, where like you said, these are people just working, and they sort of know. But I think it's not a bad idea to protest. I think it's a good idea to protest there. It's a good idea to have constant 24-hour protests in front of Trump Tower. I think it's in front of the Minster. Anything Trump, anything related to Trump enablers, there should be protests. You don't have to call them all Nazis. I agree with that. But they should be the ones that I have no trouble calling Nazis are ICE. I believe that people who are now a lot of ICE people who have been ICE, career ICE people, have left because they don't want to have anything to do with us, and they're being replaced by the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and the Ku Klux Klan is that he owns such a large amount of Tesla stock that the idea of pushing it, like getting Tesla shut down, is to make his personal stock worthless. That's actually the goal.
Well, I don't think,
It's not worthless without making everyone else worthless as well.
I didn't hear what you
Yeah, I was just saying you can't make this stock worthless without making every other shareholder stock worthless, which is effectively shutting it down. So to your question, is somehow you can keep Tesla alive, acting, like somehow hurt Elon Musk's value. But in Tesla, that's not possible. So it's going to go up or down with the success of Tesla unless he decides to sell his stock, or unless he no longer has this problem. At one point, he had a problem because he borrowed against a lot of it by Twitter, but now he's got like all sorts of new money because of the AI stuff, and so he no longer has insurance. They leverage a lot of that before so he doesn't have that leverage.
Well,
you're right. It's not going to bring him into poverty, but it will negatively affect him if Tesla all of a sudden became insolvent or became
insolvent or not insolvent based on its own operations and based on its own car sales. It's not going to be based on.
I agree. But European car sales with Tesla are down 70%.
Well,
so that's pretty good.
But part of it, by the way, is not just the politics. Part of it is a lot of competition in the EV market. I mean, the lithium prices, by the way, have crashed. Okay, we just actually had a lithium mine that was one that here in Nevada that was, I guess, supposed to open. It's far known, but because we have, I think, in Nevada, the only less kind of active lithium operations to mine it. But it was because the prices have crashed because EV sales are just less than expected everywhere. So there's other things going on. And even in terms of something like Palantir's, which is a very robust stock market value. Okay, its peak stock price was the first year into the Biden administration because Palantir is a major defense contractor, and the U.S. government's going to be buying stuff from Palantir no matter who the president is. Right, internationally, yeah. So, just speaking of well, they announced yesterday the federal government has given contracts to 4, I believe, AI companies, one of which is Grok, which is Musk's AI company. And by the way, Grok bought